Hey everyone, welcome to The Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled you're joining me today because we're going to be walking through a super practical and honestly incredibly important home safety tutorial. Look, for most of us, our home is our absolute safe haven, right? But there's actually a severe, totally invisible threat that can slip right past your front door without you ever even noticing. So today is all about empowering you. We're going to give you the exact practical knowledge you need to spot and completely neutralize this hidden danger.
Okay, just imagine this for a second. You're cleaning your room, maybe sweeping out a dusty corner, and without even realizing it, you're breathing in a deadly virus. Man, that really shatters the whole illusion of safety, doesn't it? We're talking about a virus with zero cure carried right into our homes by common rats and mice. And look, I know this sounds like some crazy scenario from a sci-fi movie, but it's the very real, terrifying reality of Hantavirus. We all think doing mundane household chores is how we keep our environment safe and clean, right? But as we're going to see, doing them the wrong way can literally trigger a deadly exposure. All right, let's just dive right in. Here's our roadmap for today. First, we'll cover the hidden household threat. Second, the chores that actually trigger airborne spread. Third, we'll contrast early signs versus late distress. Fourth, we'll look at the organ impact and survival rates. And finally, we'll wrap up with a homeowner safety checklist. So, starting with Section 1, the hidden household threat, identifying the invisible enemy. You see, hantavirus isn't actually just one single bug. It's a whole group of deadly viruses that are mainly carried and spread by rodents. Humans usually catch it after coming into contact with rodent urine, saliva, or droppings. Now, historically, this virus actually first grabbed global attention way back during the Korean War in the 1950s near the Hantan River, which is where the name comes from. And later, there was this massive, shocking outbreak in 1993 in the southwestern US, where perfectly healthy young adults were suddenly being struck down by infected deer mice. It's wild. The virus basically takes two major forms depending on where you are in the world. Over in the Americas, we mostly see Hantavirus pulmonary syndrome, or HPS, which goes straight for the lungs. But over in Europe and Asia, it typically shows up as hemorrhagic fever with renal syndrome, or HFRS, which aggressively attacks the kidneys. Moving right along to Section 2, chores that trigger airborne spread. We're going to look at exactly why sweeping is so dangerous. So, the crucial, absolute most important point here is this. The virus particles become airborne simply by sweeping or cleaning where rodents have been. Think about that. The simple act of taking a broom to a dusty room, a garage, or a shed is the primary trigger. When you sweep over dried rodent droppings or urine, you're disturbing the virus. It aerosolizes. It literally floats up into the air, right into your breathing zone, and straight into your lungs. Now, sweeping is definitely the biggest risk, but it's not the only one. You can also get infected just by directly touching rodent droppings or urine and then, casually rubbing your eye or touching your face. Eating food that a mouse has gotten into is another pathway, and though it's pretty rare, you can even get it from a rodent bite. But what's really important to note here, and kind of reassuring actually, is that most types of hantavirus do not spread from human to human. There are a few super rare strains in South America where it happens, but mostly no. The source is almost entirely environmental. And that is exactly why farmers or anyone cleaning out sheds, cabins, or attics are at the absolute highest risk. All right, Section 3, early signs versus late distress. Let's talk about recognizing the timeline. This disease's progression is, well, it's stark and it's terrifyingly deceptive. The early symptoms usually pop up anywhere from 1 to 8 weeks after you've been exposed. And honestly, they look exactly like the flu or maybe even malaria. You get a fever, a headache, muscle aches, chills, maybe some nausea. It's so incredibly easy to just brush off as a common winter bug. But as the illness progresses into the late-stage symptoms, things take a very violent turn. We are talking about severe coughing, extreme difficulty breathing, rapidly plummeting oxygen levels, and even internal bleeding. The transition from feeling like you just have a standard cold to experiencing life-threatening respiratory distress can literally happen in a matter of days. Which brings us to Section 4, organ impact and survival. Let's look at the harsh biological reality of this virus. The internal impact here is just terrifying. If you contract the pulmonary strain, the virus essentially floods your lungs with fluid. Victims have actually reported this horrific sensation of drowning while they're just sitting completely still. Now, if you get the renal strain, it attacks your kidneys. It drops urine production, causes massive toxic buildup, and can eventually lead to total kidney failure. And as if that wasn't enough, the virus can also attack your blood vessels, causing them to literally leak. That leads to internal bleeding, severe drops in blood pressure, and eventually shock. And because of that catastrophic impact on the organs, we're faced with a truly shocking statistic. 30 to 40%. That is the death rate for some forms of Hantavirus pulmonary syndrome. Just to put that into perspective, nearly 4 out of every 10 people who contract this specific lung syndrome do not survive if they get treatment too late. And when I say treatment, I really need to be crystal clear about something. There is currently no specific cure for hantavirus. There just isn't. So if you start showing early warning signs after cleaning a dusty, rodent-prone area, you need immediate medical attention. Do not wait. Doctors can only provide intensive supportive care to keep you alive. That means oxygen therapy, an immediate transfer to the ICU, ventilator assistance to literally force air into fluid-filled lungs, and rigorous fluid management. Getting this supportive care early is absolutely critical. It's the only way to greatly improve your chances of survival. Okay, let's move to our final section, Section 5, the Homeowner Safety Checklist, Defending Your Home. The good news is prevention is totally doable. It entirely focuses on physically separating rodents from our living spaces. First up on the checklist, you must seal all holes where rats or mice could possibly enter. You want to use materials they absolutely can't chew through. Things like steel wool and caulk are perfect here. Second, properly store your food in airtight containers to completely eliminate those attractants. Third, actively keep an eye out for signs of a local infestation. You're looking for fresh, pill-shaped droppings, shredded paper nests, or gnaw marks along your baseboards. And finally, if you do find an infested area, always wear gloves and a mask before you even think about cleaning it up. And that brings us to what is arguably the most critical part of this entire explainer, the safe rodent waste cleaning protocol. Okay, step 1, spray the area thoroughly with a proper disinfectant first. We're talking about a 10% bleach to water solution, or you can use a commercial EPA-registered disinfectant. Step 2, let that soak in for at least 5 minutes. Seriously, do not touch it right away. Letting it soak is what neutralizes the virus and heavily weighs down that dangerous dust. Step 3, wipe the area carefully with a paper towel. Now, notice what's completely missing from this list, sweeping. You never, ever dry sweep or vacuum rodent droppings. Soaking the area with a wet disinfectant completely replaces the deadly act of sweeping. It keeps those virus particles grounded and safely out of your lungs. Wow, we have covered a lot of really intense information today, haven't we? From those deceptive early flu-like symptoms to the absolute vital importance of safe cleaning protocols. Look, hantavirus might be rare, but as we've clearly seen, it is incredibly deadly. Your absolute best protection is awareness, cleanliness, and replacing a really dangerous habit with a safe one. So I want to leave you with this final thought to ponder. The next time you see a mouse or its droppings in your home, will you instinctively reach for the broom, or will you reach for the disinfectant? Stay safe out there, stay informed, and thank you so much for learning with me today.